So at this point, it's pretty clear that Rebecca's connected to Mother. But while it might seem obvious to some people, it hasn't been as explicitly spelled out like it has with Shiki, so I'm sure some fans still have their doubts. But on top of the fact that Rebecca can manipulate timelines and attract chronophages, there's a fundamental aspect of her ether gear that makes her powers even more special than those of other characters. So in this video, I want to discuss what we know about Cat Leaper and Mother, and explain how Rebecca is probably connected to Mother's ability to grant wishes. Be warned that this will contain spoilers. Before I get started, make sure to comment with your thoughts on Rebecca and Mother. I'll pick my favorite and share it as comment of the week in the next video. This week's comment goes to Illustrious Elucidation, who made a Doctor Strange reference about Dr. Zeno in a Dr. Stone video. If you'd like more Eden Zero and other manga discussions like this one, then make sure to subscribe and follow along with each week's video. So before we look at that fundamental aspect of Cat Leaper that I mentioned, we need to make sure we're clear on Mother. As we all know at this point, anyone that gets a wish from Mother is supposedly reborn. We did get a weird comment from Xiaomei where she was like, oh, is that what you guys call it? But she didn't really disaffirm it either. Look, she is the only person we've met to get one of these wishes, so I'm not going to question it anytime soon. Point is, if Mother can make someone reborn, then there's more than a few implications that follow. She could change that person in the same timeline. She could place them in a timeline of their own choosing. She could change that person's timeline. Or she might just place that person in a new timeline. I'm sure there's others that I'm missing, but hopefully you get the idea. It seems like Mother's powers are connected to a power over time, which isn't that much of a stretch when you consider that she's supposed to be the so-called parent of the universe. But that actually brings up an interesting point, because we have to be conscious of our word choice here. Mother is supposed to be the parent, goddess, creator, whatever, of the universe, and we're led to believe that she exists in this universe. If it were explicitly clear that she controlled all of time and space, then there would be some mention of the universes, not just the one universe. But at the same time, we know Mother was the one who gave Xiaomei her knowledge of time, and thus infinite knowledge of all possible timelines and universes. So Mother would probably need power over time herself in order to grant someone similar abilities. But this is more just food for thought. While I do think Mother can control time and has power over all the timelines, it's still important to consider these holes in the argument and keep other possibilities in mind. Even if you're still a bit skeptic, just stay with me, cause I'm gonna bring up some more points in just a few minutes. Now, on an equally ambiguous note, let's look at that fundamental element of Rebecca's ether gear and how it ties to Mother. But first, let me start by asking you a question. How exactly do you get an ether gear? Well, for the most part, it seems like you get it through training. It's the way Shiki got it, it's the way Homura got it, and it's the way Jin got it. Wise even learned his from an old robot. Which leads into another point about androids and ether gear. Androids and robots are just as capable of learning ether gears, as seen by Ziggy. Xenolith is a weird case, because he was originally human, but he just goes to show that androids can use ether gears and can be programmed with those abilities. Then you have the original Shining Stars who have ether optimization, at least according to Sister. It doesn't seem like there's any real difference from ether gears besides the whole not losing your powers when you're tied up thing, so the implication is that Ziggy programmed them with these abilities when he designed the 4 stars. In any event, knowledge seems to be the requirement. Even with someone like Ziggy who can steal abilities, he at least saw Poseidon's ether gear and had knowledge of how to use it before he used it himself. So you either need to be taught the skills, or you need to be programmed with or granted that knowledge. There are a few unconfirmed outliers like Noah and Feather whose powers seem kinda unique, but they still haven't contradicted anything we've discussed. Of course, there is one person to do that, and that would be Rebecca. Even when you consider that she used the Spa of Edens, that only accounts for her ability to use ether in general. But think about when she used her ether gear for the first time. According to Noah, he observed that Rebecca used her Cat Leaper ability when she and Happy got into that accident. Mind you, this is way before she uses the Spa of Edens. way before she even meets Shiki, which completely undermines our working theory of how you get an ether gear. We know she isn't an android, so it's not like somebody programmed her with these skills, and no one ever taught Rebecca how to leap in time, which of course is a ridiculous statement, but something we need to seriously think about. Because if Rebecca can manipulate time without prior knowledge or experience, then that means her ether gear is unique. That means she didn't need to learn her ether gear, because it was a natural ability she already possessed. But that brings us to another question. How could she be born with this ability? Well, here's one hint that you might have missed. When Xiaomei is describing her abilities, she claims that she sees different possibilities. And when Rebecca activates her ability, Xiaomei describes it as the power of possibility. Now, obviously these two are connected because they're both powers related to time, but there's still another connection. Mother grants wishes, right? Well, what is wishing if not just hoping for a possibility? So you could argue that this is foreshadowing of Mother's time abilities, and consequently her connection to Rebecca. Now, that's a bit of a stretch, so I get it if you're still skeptic. But how about this? How about the chronophages? As you'll remember, the chronophages are attracted to Rebecca. I mean, we all are, just look at her. But the chronophages take it just a little too far. But they also seem to be attracted to time anomalies. Now, the Rebecca bit makes sense, right? Because using time powers and creating timelines all willy-nilly is gonna lead to anomalies from time to time. But what about other time anomalies? And better yet, let's go one step further. Why were these chronophages even created in the first place? Well, there's apparently only one creator of the universe, and that's Mother. And even Ziggy has already alluded to the fact that Mother and the chronophages are connected. So you're probably wondering, since Mother created the universe, why did she create the chronophages? Well, think back to what we said earlier. Odds are Mother manipulates or changes the timelines when she grants a wish. And what's the first thing that usually comes from changing the timelines? Time anomalies. So if Mother foresaw these anomalies, then it's reasonable to assume that she found a way to manage them. And that's where the chronophages come in. As parent of the universe, Mother has an interest in the balance of time. So she probably created the chronophages as a way to balance the timelines and keep the universe, or universes, in order. And that checks out when you consider that they seem to prioritize planets with time anomalies. So to recap, here's where we are right now. Mother probably influences the timelines when she grants wishes. She probably created the chronophages as a way to manage the resulting time anomalies, as well as other time anomalies. Rebecca has the ability to leap back in time. More specifically, thanks to Noah, we know she can create separate timelines/universes. Finally, Rebecca was probably born with this ability since she always seems to have had it. So, what can we take away from this? Well, the obvious implication is that Mother gave Rebecca her ether gear. And just so we're clear, I don't think she created Rebecca like she might have with Shiki, because at this point the whole Luke and Leia bit would be way too late. I think it's more like Mother chose a random baby in the universe to give these powers to. Now, this would explain where Rebecca mysteriously got her powers and why she never knew about them. But that doesn't explain why Mother would do this. I mean, think about it. Why would Mother grant these abilities if she already has the power over time and has the chronophages? It's a bit too early in the story for any kind of definitive answer, but here's my theory at the moment. Mother does have power over time, but she seems to take a very passive role in the universe. She also has the chronophages, but they can't be everywhere at once. And like we're seeing with Ziggy and the Eden Zero, clearly there's the potential for people to manipulate the chronophages. Clearly there's a need for some checks and balances. And that's where I think Rebecca comes into play. I think Rebecca was given this power as a check against the chronophages. God forbid someone takes control of them, Rebecca can use her ether gear to set things back in order. Likewise, since the chronophages can't be everywhere at once, Mother might have given Rebecca her ether gear so that she could be another force to manage problems in the timelines. Again, those are just my working theories right now. It's pretty clear with everything going on that we're going to learn more about Rebecca's role in all of this. There is the possibility that Mother had a more grand design in mind for Rebecca, but it's unclear what that would be. In any event, it's hard to say at this point that Rebecca isn't somehow connected to Mother. She clearly got her powers from her, and there's all these connections to Mother and the chronophages. Which is why it's only a matter of time before it's confirmed that Mother always intended for Rebecca to be one of the most important characters in the entire universe of Eden Zero. And that's it for this discussion. If you enjoyed this discussion of Mother and Rebecca, then make sure to let me know by liking the video. Also, make sure to comment with your thoughts down below. And if you'd like more Eden Zero and other manga discussions like this one, then make sure to subscribe and follow along with each week's video. Thank you for watching, and I hope to hear from you soon.